Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is our webinar from Expat Housing Network. I also want to say hello to my colleague Ludo and to our special guest, Ewoud. He will be the mortgage advisor that will give all the tips today. So he is also here with us. And let's, just so you know, you're going to receive an email within a few days with this presentation, also the PowerPoint presentation that you see. And in the email, if you have questions afterwards, please feel free to contact me or Ewoud about it. And we're gonna also answer all your questions today. So feel free to ask them in the chat already if you like, or you can keep them from the end. We're gonna answer them all. Let's begin. Oh, I have always to click here. So I am Diovana. I am an expat buying and also rental manager here in the Eindhoven region. I'm from Brazil. I've been here for about 13 years. I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. I moved here in 2019. I first lived in the north of the Netherlands, in Groningen, a very pretty city. If you don't know, it's a good place to visit. And then I moved to Eindhoven in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. I rented, here it says a place, but I would better say about 10 before I bought my own house, my first house, renovated the whole house, waited for the price to go up again and sold the house for a good price, bought a new one, renovated again. And I might be selling this one again because the prices are good. This is Ewoud. Ewoud, are you there? Are you able to talk a little bit about you? I
think we have to make Ewoud a panelist as well.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Wait a second so I can see it over here. Yes, Ewoud. I'll make him a panelist and then. Oh, yes, there you go. There you go. And then he will be our expat. Oh, he's here. Yes. We give it a second and see how it goes. He is the mortgage advisor at Helpekiezen. Is a financial company here in Eindhoven, located nearby to the Park Theater. Very easy if you live in the city center, or if you need to get by public transportation. And Ewoud he's Dutch, but he has lived abroad, has bought a property abroad. Oh, there he is. I was talking a little bit about you, but now you can introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, actually, I heard everything. Thank you.
Okay,
no,
good.
I was sent out and back in, but thanks anyway. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for being here as well. I'm a mortgage advisor. I'm Dutch. I also lived as an expat abroad, like Diovana said a moment ago. I really enjoy actually also helping people that are having the same international experience that I had before when I was living in Portugal as an expat. Now we ran into a lot of issues and also a lot of things that they thought were common to know, which I didn't think were that obvious. So I want to prevent that same things for people coming to the Netherlands, because it's a little bit my country, so I feel responsible and I like my job. So yeah, if we meet again, you will see that I will try to go a little bit beyond the standard things. Just to think alone, what is not obvious for you might be obvious for Dutch, but not the other way around. I work for an independent company, so whether it's going to be the ABN that everybody's welcomed with when they come to the Netherlands, or it's going to be a different bank like an Allianz or a Rabobank, it doesn't matter. It doesn't influence the interest or anything else. We basically help you choose the right thing, and that's what I like about this as well, that we let people participate in the process. Yeah, that's short about me.
That's good. Thank you so much. Then we continue. As I said before, please keep your mortgage questions up to date. He's here for that, so he can give you all the answers. Let's continue. So we have a poll to get to know you a little bit, to see where you're from and those. Let's start with the poll. Let me see. There you go. I believe you can all see it. If you can, we give you a few seconds to fill it up. That would be great. So before we continue, how did you hear about us? Yeah, so that'll be great. There you go. I see it. I guess I'll give you more about 15 seconds and then we can keep going.
Then maybe I'll take my 2 seconds of fame here as well.
Go for it.
I'm here to answer all the questions that anyone might have. So please feel free to put all your questions in the Q&A, in the dedicated Q&A area, so that we can filter everything quite nicely. And while Diovana and Ewoud are talking, I'll be able to answer your questions accordingly. If we still have some questions left, then completely at the end, we'll have a Q&A as well, and we'll be able to ask the questions live to Diovana and Ewoud. That was it for me.
Thank you. Now they had the time to fill up the poll, so that was great. I will end the poll now, and then I'll share that afterwards. There we go. So, and I'll close it. There we go. So this is the Expat Housing Network team. As you can see, we are from everywhere. I'm from Brazil, Kate is from Cyprus, Philip is from Belgium, Rick is Dutch, have lived in South America before. Rafael is also from Brazil, and we have Ellen that is from the Netherlands, but just came back from Thailand. She lived for a long time over there. And of course, Ludo, who is here today with us. We are a very international team, which is quite nice. A little introduction about our company. We are not a traditional real estate. We don't have house for rent or for sell. We do help you to do the buying process or the rental process. We charge also a fixed fee. I saw that a few of you went to our website and that's how you found us. So you can see our fees over there, but you also receive in this email afterwards. We have a fixed fee. We don't have a commission, so you can buy a property of any value and the fee will be the same. And of course, we know what it looks like to settle in a new country. What's our add value? I would say for me is literally care about people in this process, because I've been there myself and it's not an easy one. And having someone that understands what you're going through, I think it's very important. But there are other ones, of course. Selling agents do take offers from H&N more seriously. We have everything checked up before we send the offer. We make sure that you have the best presentation in the offer, so the selling agent is have all his answers, all his questions answered before. If he has any doubts, he'll be able to talk to us and make everything clear. We sometimes can book viewings when you are not able to, because of course the selling agents, they do rather to bring people who have an agent to a viewing than just someone without it. We support by review all the Dutch legal documents. I believe you're going to find 99% of the documents are in Dutch. So we have enough Dutch people and people who have learned Dutch that are able to look at all those documents. One very important thing, we help you define the market value of the house. I will talk about this a bit further, but it's a very, very important thing for you to know about the prices that are in Funda and the prices that are the real market value price. And we'll inform you about all the rules and regulations regarding each property that you will visit and maybe want to send an offer to. There are different things such as ground lease, VVA laws and everything regarding the property. So we're also going to do that for you. Make sure that you don't make the same mistakes we have made. We all bought properties already. Some of us didn't go so well. So that's why we're here to make sure that you don't go through the bad part of the process. We have another poll. Where are you in the process, in the buying process right now? So let me see. There you go. You have also a few seconds to fill up the poll, so we know where are you, if you are already look at Funda, if you already have seen any properties, or maybe you got an offer accepted already and didn't want to go through it. So it's important for us to know, so we see what kind of clients we might have in the future, or who is interested in know about the process of buying. Do we have any more things you'd like to say, Ludo?
No, not anymore.
Good.
Said what I wanted to say.
Good to know. Good to know. I think I'll end the poll. There you go. We see that one later. and we're good to go through. So we put together some market info, and so you get to know the market price, how the numbers are. So in average in the Netherlands, the average price of a house was 438 last year. This is the numbers from Q3. We don't have Q3. We don't have the numbers of Q4 yet. So this are it's a very high average price. Of course, there are differences in regions, and some regions are much more expensive, but this is just the whole Netherlands average price. And then you can see how much the market is growing, and so far we do believe, we're also going to talk a bit further, that it will still grow. We hope that it gets stabilized a little bit, but that's not what we see so far. But here are some numbers of the Eindhoven. This is specific for Eindhoven, not for the area itself, but Eindhoven. So there were 1,443 houses sold. There were, you can see there was 30% from last year. That's 30% from 2020. Because of course there was not many houses in the market. We know all about that. And the average price, which is very interesting, is one of the most interests information. It was also quite high, 420. I remember about 3-4 years ago, that would be 270 or 280. So this is I call insane. You can maybe find another word, but I find a bit insane, but that's it is what it is. So those are the figures about Eindhoven, the whole Eindhoven area, the Eindhoven city. It might be a little bit less for some cities around, such as Heldrop or Helmond, but I would take more or less the same average price for Veldhoven, for example, because of ASML, of course. Market drivers. Let's talk a little bit about those. What caused the price to increase? So of course there are plenty of fiscal benefits. Tax exemption, for example, that you can buy a house. You can buy a house if you are younger than 35 years old, or up to 35, and buy a house that is not up to 400K. You don't pay the 2% transfer tax. That makes also a lot of people interested in buying very fast before they are 35 years old. It makes a huge difference on the end of all the payments you have to do, in the amount of money that you need to have to be able to buy a house. Interest rebate, that's also something very interesting. You always get interest rebate. We're gonna have Ewoud talk a little bit more about that when he will do his presentation. No capital gains, of course. Tax-free parent donation, that is something that wasn't tax-free, and that's something, one of my questions to Ewoud when the questions will come, to explain a little bit more about the parent donations. We have a lot of expats there ended up having that question, so I think it's nice that if we can talk a little bit more at the end about it. But it will end. People will have to pay taxes on that, so that's also something that you need to be aware of it. Low interest rates, of course. The interest rates are quite low, especially when you buy with NHG, National Mortgage Guarantee. And you only can buy up to 355 to be able to get those very, very low interest rates. But it's still, even if you don't buy with NHG, the interest rate is quite low at the moment. And high rents. Eindhoven is very known for having a very high rental price. It's getting higher, even higher this year. We already saw that, but there are not many houses in the market and too many people coming. Lack of supply, yeah, it is what is happening. I see that not in Eindhoven anymore, but the prices are going high also in other cities around Eindhoven, Heldrop, and Helmond, Best, and they used to be a little bit cheaper, but now they are more or less the same price. So it's getting a bit, I would say, worse in the rental market. There are some news about it. Self-occupants obligation. You received the presentation, as I told you, so you can read all of them. But it basically means that from April 2022 in Eindhoven, you have to buy a house if you have to buy a house, and up to 350, you have to live in the house, up to 350 of the WOZ value. The WOZ value is the value that the city hall charges you to pay your taxes. It's not the market value. That's a big difference, and depends on the area. The WOZ is a bit less, or it's a bit cheaper, or it's more expensive. It really depends on the neighborhood. But from April on, you have to live in the house. So there we will stop the investors of buying places, cheap places, and just fix it up or just rented it out. We had in the past clients that were investors, and they do pay everything literally in cash, and that's more or less the price that they are searching for, 300 to 50 or so. So they can rent it really fast, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, and the average price for rent will be around 1,500. So it's easy to rent as well. So that will stop in April. And a lot of cities in the Netherlands, 60% of municipalities are already part of this scheme. So maybe in this way, people that are buying their first house will be able to, we have more chances, because literally when someone comes with 350 in cash, I don't think there's a competition there anymore. So maybe the competition will be less. Also, national mortgage guarantee, Ewoud, we talked a little bit more about that as well. The limit went from 325 up to 355 now in 2022. One thing that you have to keep in mind, and I will again ask Ewoud maybe to remember afterwards, that the purchase price has to be up to 355, not what you're going to, let's say, not the price you see on Funda, for example. It has to be the final price of the house. So keep that in mind, because I see a lot of people making a little bit of a mistake right there. Interest rates, they might go a bit high this year. Ewoud can talk a bit more of that afterwards. Maybe that makes the house market less crazy, that the percentage doesn't go so high, that the house don't become more and more expensive, but that's what we are expecting so far. What you need in savings before you start looking for a house. So this is very important. We put it here, a list of everything you need to pay that cannot be included in your mortgage. You can only have your house finance. You cannot have the values that you need to pay, for example, notary, appraisal, technical inspectors, to be financed with the house. You can literally only finance 100% of the house, not anything else. So I would say if you are older than 35 years old, you need to have more or less 4 to 5% in cash, 4 and 5% of the purchase price to be able to buy a house. And if you are younger and buy a house that is less than 400K, around 3% in cash, because you're not going to pay the transfer tax if you never bought a house before in the Netherlands. Of course, if you have, if you bought a house before and you are younger than 35 and the house is less than 4K, you pay the 2% anyway. This is one chance only. So if you already used your chance in the past, you're not going to be able to use it again. And those are some costs. You can see what is tax deductible. Everything related to mortgage is tax deductible. For example, the mortgage deed, the mortgage advisor, the appraiser, because it's mandatory to have an appraiser. The appraiser is the person make evaluation report and tells the bank what is the real market value of the house. And if you go with NHG mortgage, you have to pay a certain amount, of course, to be a part, and that's also tax deductible. So that's the calculation you have to do. It's nice for you to really pay attention to that list. I get this question a lot, that people always calling me and say, we have, let's say, 30K in saves. Would that be enough to buy a house, to overbid and do whatever you have to do? And I always ask, have you already counted the amount of money you need to have to pay just because you need to buy a house? The notary, the mortgage advisor, the transfer tax, the appraisal, those are mandatory. And a lot of people make a confusion about that. So think always about 3 to 5% from the purchase price in cash. Doesn't matter if you have to overbid or not, you need to have that in cash to be able to buy a house in the Netherlands. Those are the people you'll meet when you buy a house in the Netherlands: the mortgage advisor, the buying agent, the appraiser, technical inspector, and notary. This is Ewoud. He already introduced himself to us. He will share all the information about the mortgage, of course, the best interest rates, the best conditions. One thing about Helpikiza and Ewoud, they have a very nice platform where you can see the interest rates from all different banks and why you should take this one, why you shouldn't. You can see very clear everything about it. So that's very nice. If you are looking for someone to have a big overview of it, he will submit the mortgage application on your behalf, of course, and this to the bank once the offer is accepted, and he will chase the bank to get all the updates and confirmation, keep up with the dates and everything. Michelle, she is the appraiser. As I told you before, it's mandatory to have an appraiser, an official appraiser at the house. They're going to make a report called valuation report. In that report, the bank can see what is the real worth of the house. For example, you see a house on Funda that the house, the price is 300K, and you put an offer of 350, for example. I'm just using an example, just numbers. I'm not sure why you put an offer that high or something, just a number. And Michelle will go to the house after your offer gets accepted, and it will make a valuation and say that the house is worth it, let's say 340, which means that the bank will only give you 340. The other 10K you have to pay yourself. That's why it's an official report, and the bank wants that report to be able to have your mortgage approved to give you an offer. So she will determine the value. She will look at comparable properties sold in the recent past, maximum 1 year. And also if it's an apartment, she will also look at the VVA, the owner association, to see if they have a healthy owner association, if they have money in savings to be able to fix stuff in the building and all those kind of things. The report to be ready might take up to 3 to 7 days, so be aware of that if you need it very quickly. The building inspector, the technical inspector, it's not legally required. You might do it or not, it's up to you. If you check the documents of the house and you see all the property and you see if there is leakage, or if they never renew, if the house is very old, or if there is asbestos, or if they did a big renovation, but it was like 50 years ago. So it will be interesting to have an inspector. We always recommend to the client to have an inspector when the house is older than 30, 35 years. But of course, if the house was completely renovated, it's not actually really necessary. It really depends on the conditions of the house and on the property documents. And even if you have an agent, the agent will guide you and decide with you if it's necessary or not. You do have to pay for yourself, and this one is not tax deductible. The report will be ready in a maximum of 2 days, most likely the first day. And then you can see in the report what things need to be fixed in the house from 0 to 1 year, 2 to 5, and 5 to 10 years, and also with prices. So then you can decide if you want to go through with the deal or not. Both appraiser and technical inspection, they will come after your offer gets accepted. The notary is mandatory in the Netherlands. You need to have a notary to be able to do your mortgage deed and your transfer deed. So in Eindhoven area, actually North Brabant, the selling agent is the one who makes the contract, the purchase agreement. The purchase agreement is quite simple. Everyone uses the same. There are a few different clauses that can be included, so just pay attention to that, but everyone basically uses the same. And the notary will receive your purchase agreement. Once they receive it, they will start working your mortgage deed and your transfer deed. They will also look all the documents of the house since the house was built, see if all the taxes were paid, and take your documents from the seller as well and prepare everything. It's kind of like they do a checkup, a background checkup in the house before you sign anything. If something wrong, they will contact both parties and agents and everything and solve the case. But it is mandatory. One thing about the notaries in the Netherlands, they all do the same job. Pick the cheapest. There is no reason why you need to expend so much money in the notary. So do your homework, look around for the prices, and they're all very good, all of them really. So it's just a matter of the price, the cheapest one, and then you can save some money for overbidding if you need to. About your mortgage, now is the time of my colleague Ewoud. So I'll let you go, let you guide, actually, not go, don't go.
Thank you, Diovana. let's go to my first slide then.
Yeah.
I'm not in control.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you very well, Ewoud. Sorry to interrupt you.
You mentioned can you hear me better when I see a little bit closer to the screen?
Yeah, the difference is not huge. Or do you hear him well, Diovana? Is it maybe it's my?
No, I don't actually.
No problem. I will use my headphone. Maybe it helps.
Yeah, maybe it helps. Yeah.
So let's change to this one. Is it now better?
We can hear you, but it's like far away from
Breaking
us.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can speak a little bit louder and that will help, because I don't know how else I can adjust this one. But the testing did work, but now I understand it works a little bit worse.
A little bit, yeah, but we can understand you now. It's okay. Yeah, if you speak loud and clearly.
Okay, I will do my best. So my apologies. Yeah, like I said, with the testing it worked better, but I will speak a little bit louder. Let's hope we'll get through in this. Let's go to the first. Try moving your phone away from the laptop. Okay. Good tip from the chat. I'll try. So maybe this is a difference. I don't know. Thank you. So the first steps, let me introduce a little bit, step by step in the mortgage plan, what we're going to do, the steps that we normally take in our way of working. We'll be starting with some insight, from there going to the service agreement, then analyze and advise. After that administrative process, you become a house owner after that, and then you have to ask if this has happened. Step by step, we'll explain a little bit. I do see in the chat, I'm still really bad being heard. Is this? Because if it's too terrible, I can imagine that people don't like it that way. I can reconnect maybe, is that an idea? But then it's a little bit bad for the presentation maybe. What is best?
Yeah, maybe it can't hurt, or maybe do it without the headphones. Is that a possibility, or did you try that before already?
I can try this way. Does this help?
Yeah, not so much. I'm not sure. Maybe reconnect. Indeed, it can't hurt. It's
Yeah,
you have important stuff to tell. So.
Maybe. I reconnect. Is that the best?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's always the thing with these Zoom meetings. It's much easier if you can just stand in front of a crowd and have a microphone. Sometimes there are some technical difficulties, but that is fine. Everyone's
You'll be back in a
working
minute,
from
so
home.
we can see. Yeah. At least now it's a microphone. Normally, the noise is my kids like running and screaming. So just a microphone.
Exactly. So I think you'll have to make Ewoud a panelist again when he comes back.
Just waiting for him to come.
Well, I see that we're already getting some nice questions in the Q&A. Thanks a lot for that, guys. That is always nice.
And again, if you after the presentation forgot to ask something, please feel free to at the end of the presentation, you're going to see my email address and everything. So please feel free to send your questions. If you forgot something, that's fine. Then we can talk about it. We can help you further. There you go. You're back.
Let's hope you can hear me better this time.
Yes, we can.
It's already a lot better.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay, well, my apologies for the start.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
But let's hope it's worthwhile that we tried it again. Yeah, let's start in the beginning again. The mortgage steps are always, it's quite a complex actually arrangement. It's not just the interest. So what we really try to do is take it step by step. And therefore, we also created a little bit of step-by-step plan for the mortgage process. So you don't have to expect to understand everything in the first meeting. We really try to build it up. The way we're going to do it, we always start with an insight. In the slide later on, I will explain a little bit what we're going to tackle with the insight. If everything fits, you feel comfortable with it, and that sort of things, we're going to go to the service agreement to complete an analysis of your situation and also show you a little bit of advice what to do best. After that, the administrative process starts. We already start in the beginning to get some insight, but really collecting the things and the data for the bank will be in this part. If this is all done, yeah, you're becoming the homeowner, the house owner of the house, and we of course have an aftercare in case there will be new questions arising or maybe new plans arising, things changing in your life. So the idea is that it's not only from the beginning assist you with buying this house, but also afterwards if there are new questions. Let's go to the next slide for the insight. With the insights, what we're going to do in our first meeting, what I like to do is first getting acquaintance. Everybody has a different history, different way of wanting their mortgage fixed, how they want it. So what is your objective? The idea, what I want to do is to give you a good idea what you can borrow. We have a little bit, the way we look at it as the banks are doing is going to be loan to income. So the idea is we're going to see what you can borrow based on your income. Not only based on the income, but also what you need. So those are the buying costs, but also, for instance, new houses are quite common nowadays to have. I've experienced myself both, so I can talk about both ways how it works. Of course, also give the insight in the monthly cost and of a mortgage, different loans, and also the rules and regulations. The idea is that you really get a good view what we can offer, what you can get, so you understand a little bit the working. A lot of people that are speaking from abroad as well, they like to understand what is happening. So what I try to do when I'm advising to you, to create the ID that is, first of all, it has to be your own ID, but also next to that, to understand a little bit what's happening and what effect does an income have or an effect of credits have. So the things that you do. When we go to the next slide, one of the things that is also important and what we will also discuss in this first meeting is what is your budget? Because a lot of people are also looking for it. And this is really why it's also that important to have a buying broker. This is also the reason why Expat Housing really came to our path as well as being a mortgage advisor. We know everything about the income and the cost and how much you can get, but we don't know about what the value of a house is. The loan to value will also be very important. And the idea between loan to value is also that you can never borrow more than the value of a house. So the idea is that we're not only going to look at the cost, so the income on which you can borrow, your savings will count as well. You cannot borrow more with savings, but total is important. So the three things basically create your budget. If you can borrow 400,000 euros, you have 100,000 savings. We say you have a budget of 500,000, but if the appraisal is less, and this is something where Expat Housing can really help you with as well, then you cannot borrow more than the value of this house. And the other way around as well. If the value is 500,000, but you cannot get more than 400, this is your maximum as well. So we're really going to create it up personal and look from there what you can borrow. One of the questions that I also saw in the chat, how long do you need to be in the Netherlands? Actually, that depends on the bank. So all banks have different rulings. And the idea is also when the rulings are different, for instance, with ABN. So ABN says you have to live for half a year in the Netherlands. Well, Centraal Beheer doesn't have that rule. You can live here for 1 day and it's fine too. So each bank has a little bit of different idea how to look at that. When we look at this as things that we will tackle in the first meeting already when we get acquainted. Go to the next slide.
Ewoud, about that, let me ask you something then. I know the answer, but maybe people already also have that question, so I'll do it myself. How about the working contract when they are on the probation time? Is it also possible to buy a house?
Yeah, it's actually a question that I have quite a lot. Depending when you're in a probation period, you cannot get a loan, but if you have been here for a longer period, and we can have an average of the last 3 years, then you can just get a loan. So actually, right now I'm in the process of 3 people, actually expats as well, and they're all in their probation period because they went from one job to the next one. And there are definitely possibilities within, not with every bank. Some are really difficult, and sometimes also we just have to wait till the probation period is done, but we can work on the average of the last 3 years. So yeah, there are possibilities within that as well. Yep.
Yes. And just so you know, that's how I bought my first house, actually, during the probation time. So I wanted to make people more like, woof, it's possible.
Nice. Okay. Can we go to that? Thank you. Well, one of the things that also I think is important to mention, because it's a question that we sometimes have as well. You have a value of a house. So let's say the value before renovation is 400,000 euros. Then also in this case, sometimes you want a new kitchen or a new bathroom or that sort of things. And you need about 450,000 euros. It can be that the appraisal actually says it's no more than 435,000 euros. Then no matter how much you can borrow, based on the income, the loan to value will be no more than 435,000 euros. So also this part is important to know. Also, when you're looking at buying a house and this is one of your intentions. So, and again, therefore, we really look at the appraisal again and the buying broker to give you good information what is reasonable to expect within. In the next slide, thank you. One of the things that was also one of the questions I saw that Ludo answered was if you're going to put in part of your own means. So if you have savings and you want to put it into the mortgage as well. As you can see, a mortgage is based on a few criteria. One of the criteria is how long you're going to fix an interest. Even if a running period is 30 years of a mortgage, if you fix it for 5 years, it will be cheaper than that you fix it for 30 years. So when you ask me, what interest do you have? There are different types of interest. NHG, one of the points that also was mentioned before, is that the NHG actually covers he's covering the risk of a bank and therefore giving you the lowest interest possible. Also, when you're going to borrow less than 80% for a market value, then you can also see that you actually can get a discount on the interest. So sometimes it's advisable to put in part of your own savings just to get a lower interest. These are all topics we can discuss and also find out what is a better investment for you, whether to put in your own means or maybe just to get a full mortgage and to invest your own money into other parts. This is based loan to value. If this is clear, so we had our first meeting, then you can really go out and buy a house, because it's not common that people just go and offer for a house and then cancel it. It's common that we first find out if we can get it, and then we're going to go out and find the house. When we find the house, you sign the contract, and then we're going to go more into detail about your advice. So we're in the next step. The advice, we have 3 steps. What I'm going to do when we go more into depth, because it's a big difference if you find a house of 350,000 euros or maybe 1 million. We start again about your perception and affordability. Clarify personal situation and, of course, all the options. Because if it's not possible with one bank, then there are still 40 other banks that might be possible. So there's so many options, but we have to know first, what are your wishes? So we're not going to start with a product, but we're going to start first, what do you want? Going from what you want, I'm going to show you what the real numbers mean. So what can you borrow, what really works in cost, how much do you have net to spend, and this eventually leads to the best product. And then we're going to choose together, because the idea of help kiezen is actually helping you choose. So going from your wishes and the advice, you're going to determine which lender is best for you. Once you've decided this yourself, then we're going to go together and to make it concrete, and we're going to make sure that every administrative process will go smooth. This will be done by me and my colleagues. Every form will be filled in if needed, talking to the appraiser and the notary and all that. If we're going to look to the product, because this is one of the questions, how are we going to compare them? In the next sheet, we're going to show you a little bit the idea, how it works. In my system, I can help you a little bit comparing the banks. So going from the wishes, we're going to show you what do the banks cost, what terms do they have, what conditions do they have. And the idea is that I'm going to help you to actually find out what choices you have. It's not only based on the first interest, it's based on the total cost, but also other ideas that you might have. We're going to go through these things together. And then I'm going to show you a little bit, okay, maybe this is applicable to you or important to you. So the better I get to know you, the better we can determine which points of interest might be important for you to have. This we'll do together, and we can repeat as long as possible. The idea about the cost as well, how we work, we have fixed fees. New mortgages are always 2,700 euros starting from. If you want additional insurances like life insurance and maybe second life insurance, it can be something added. Common will be that people pay 2,700 euros, and that's basically it. There's no VAT extra. You don't get a different interest than your own bank because it's all fixed to a certain interest, so there will be no diversification in that. And this way, it's easier a little bit also to trust the person sitting across to you. Yeah, to the next slide. The end, basically, once you decided and all dots are connected, you can sign it and everything is okay. Then we can celebrate for having the house and wait until you go to the notary to get it. I kept it a little bit short because I have the idea that the sound is not that well. My apologies, I have no idea. I'm doing this 5 times a day, so I don't know what's happening. But I will keep it short, and please let me know if there's any question or I can clarify anything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We could hear, it was not the best audio for sure, but we could hear. Thank you so much, really. So 3 tips to win in a current market. So I will continue the presentation. As Ewoud said it, if you guys remember anything financial, any questions regarding financial, in the end of the presentation, you see a link to send him an email to book your appointment if you like. So feel free to do so and send him an email with your questions if you forgot about something, but he'll be here to answer at the end all the questions as well. So it's all about value, right? You need to know the real value of the house. So this is come back what I said at the beginning about the appraisal price and not the funda value. So I will give you an example now. This house, for example, the asking price 395K, and then here you can see a little comparison. The real market value is actually 415. And the purchase price ended up to be 435. So you can see when people tell you that you need to overbid 10-20% or something regarding the asking price, might be true, but what really matters, of course, if you have the budget for, is what the appraiser will put in the report. And in this case, the appraiser will put in the report the market value as 450K. So the asking price was 395, you pay 435, and but you actually you would pay around 20K in cash in this example. So you see, you actually pay 4.8% above the market value. I would say it's a very good deal because the market is going up around 12-14% a year. So let's say if you hold on to this house for 2 years, 3 years, you already get a lot back. If you have to sell it, come back to your own country or something like that. So so it's not that you need always to overbid 10, 20, 30% of the funda price, the asking price that you see on funda or in any website. You really need to know about the market value. Do your homework. We have another one here, 375 market value 415. It's quite a difference. There's no way I can tell you why. I would say it's when they put the value of the property quite low is to have more people visiting the house, to have more offers, to have more overbidding. But normally the market value, what I see in Eindhoven can be, it can vary a lot. It can be like 10 to 15K more than the asking price, and depends on the people who are selling. It is exactly that price of the funda price, or it can be like 40% difference from the market value, low difference in low price, I would say. So it's unbelievable how big it is, how big a difference there is. So that's why you have to look and do a good price research and find out the real market value. So here we go, 60K, 16%, and you again, same thing, you are only actually having the 48%. So it's a very good overview of the market. If you're able to get to the actual market value, not only think about funda. A winning offer, of course, offer a good price is always the best thing. I have to be honest, it's not always the highest price that is a good price. And I will tell you that because a lot of people think that whatever they are offering above the market, they can finance because they don't have the knowledge enough to understand about the appraisal, about the valuation report. So in that scenario, let me come back a little bit. In the house asking price, for example, 375, and let's say you did offer the 435, but you put that you will to finance 100% of the purchase price. So you never, even if you offer more, you will never be able to win the offer because the selling part already know that the market value will be around 415, which means that you will never be able to finance 435. So your mortgage will be denied anyway. So it doesn't matter if you go high. If you don't know the value, the market value, they not have the good conditions, you're not going to be able to win the offer. So you need to be very aware of that. Offer a personal touch is always something nice, talking about you, talking about why you do want to buy that property, and being in the viewing and get to know why are they selling the house, and those kind of things makes a huge difference in the offer. I have a good example about that. I have a client who we didn't have at all the highest offer. He needed 100% finance, so we only went into the market value and not €1 more than that. And at the end, he was chose because the seller wanted to meet the people who made an offer. So she was there in every single viewing as well. And she said that she had a very good feeling about our client, and he would make something good about the house that will make her feel good because she lived there for 30 years. So it really, every house is different. You really have to understand the whole process to be able to send the right offer. And it does make a difference. It all depends on the seller, of course, but it does make a difference. So, and also it's very important for the seller to know that you can secure the offer. When you have an agent behind that gives you all the support, that they can be with you in every step of the way, most likely I would say in our company, we would check everything. We'll be there for you. We vouch for you in every offer. And that makes a huge difference. A lot of people send offers without knowing anything about it. So those offers are not really taken in consideration because the selling part doesn't know anything about who is buying, if they have enough profits to pay the mortgage or to pay the difference, or even to pay the highest bid that they put it, the difference in price, selling market and the actual purchase price. So it makes a huge difference. It's not always about price. Due diligence, it's the things you have to do afterward, after you get your offer accepted and before you sign the purchase agreement. This is very important. Have the inspector ASAP, but even before the inspector, you need to have your appraisal appointment scheduled right after you get your offer accepted to make sure that he puts the right value in the report for Ewoud to be able to finance what you need. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to. So it's very important that the advisor is, the appraiser is there before you sign the purchase agreement. Be careful with that. I see a lot around that people pressure the people who are buying to sign an offer and bring the appraisal there during the 3 days cooling off period. I will explain a little bit further what it is. And sometimes you get a surprise and it might harm you, especially if you buy a house without financial clause. So please be careful about that. Do you book them before or after? I already said, I believe you should be, you book them after you get the offer accepted, but you need to have them before you sign your purchase agreement. So here, more or less how the process goes. Offer accepted, and then you have around 1.5 weeks to sign the purchase agreement. So during that 1.5 weeks, you need to have your technical inspection, if necessary, of course, be in the house, and also your appraisal in the house as well. The report might take a few days to be ready, but the appraisal about a day or so, he's already able to tell you how much will be the value that will be in the report. Let your mortgage advisor know ASAP about that you bought a house, so he can speed up things if you buy the house without financial clause. And then if you buy a house without financial clause, be careful about it. You have dates. You cannot back away from the deal. You have to pay 10% of the purchase price to the seller if anything goes wrong. So discuss that before with your mortgage advisor to be able to get to have the right decision. After you sign your purchase agreement, you have 3 working days to get out of the deal without paying any penalty. And now goes a free tip for you guys. Never sign the purchase agreement on a Monday or a Tuesday, always on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So you have extra days to really think about it. And if everything goes wrong, you can just pull out of the deal without paying any penalty. You're probably going to lose the money from the appraisal and the technical inspector, but that's better than lose 10% of the deal for sure. So be careful with that. We put a big timeline so we can see it. Start your search on Funda. Go to the house, make your appointment, check everything, write your offer correctly, send the offer gets approved, appraisal and technical inspection right away. Mortgage advisor, let him know you signed the purchase agreement. The mortgage advisor needs the signing purchase agreement and the appraisal report to be able to start your mortgage application. But before that, he can already give you a whole overview about it. You have the 3 cool-off days period, the 3 cool-off days to get out of the deal without paying any penalty. And after that, more or less, are we still on those average 4 weeks, Ewoud, for the mortgage approved? Sometimes it's even earlier than that, but can we still keep those 4 weeks as average to approve the mortgage?
It's hardly on the banks. If they look at it within a day, the website banks are with 9 working days before they're going to look at it. So it depends a little bit on the choice again that people are making.
Yeah, good. So depends on the bank you're going to use, then you can have an average of 4 weeks to get your mortgage approved. I have seen banks that approve like in a week, and I have seen banks exactly like that took their sweet times, 5 weeks or so to approve the mortgage. But that's going to be written in your offer. So that's why you have to really pay attention, subject to that much as a financial and that many weeks to be approval. So you need to, that's why you need to have your offer correctly written so you don't have any problems. After your mortgage gets approved, all the documents go to the notary will start to do your mortgage deed and transfer deed, and then you just have to wait into the inspection to get your keys. Before you get your keys, you're going to receive an invoice, a final note of the notary, where you have to pay all the expenses, your mortgage advisor, the appraisal, the technical inspection. You have to pay before, though. After he's in the house, you have 15 days to pay the invoice. Us, for example, if you have an agent, all the little expenses, that those 3 to 5%, that's when you pay on the statement of completion. That's the final note. And then it comes to the day you go to the notary. Before you go to the notary, you have a last inspection. You go to the house about an hour or so before, depends how far is the house from the notary. You do an inspection. You walk around the house with your agent, with the selling part, with the buying part. And then you do an inspection and see if everything is good the way you saw it when you saw the house for the first time. Also, maybe they wanted to sell a wardrobe, a bed or something, and you bought it. So that's the time you will see if everything looks okay the way it's supposed to be. And then they take pictures of the water and gas, electricity if it's necessary. And then from that, and then afterwards you go to the notary. From that day on, you are the owner of the house. And the notary, they will read the purchase agreement, the transfer deed, not the purchase agreement, sorry, the transfer deed, the mortgage deed, and then you become the owner of the house. It's very important to have home insurance from that day on, because the house will be yours and you are completely your responsibility. So if something happens, the house goes on fire the next day, it won't go, but just an example, bad one, then it means that, yeah, it's your responsibility. You have insurance, so you'll be able to have that cover. So that's very important. Also, the notary will ask if you did the insurance, just so you know. Those are our packages. You can go through all of them. We have different prices, different things that we offer. Also, for now, we have a new package that offers assistance for people who want to buy a new build, that it takes longer to move in, of course, because they have to build everything, a new house or a new apartment. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions about it. I'll be more than happy to answer them. We put together some frequently asked questions, so maybe you have those as well. What happens if you want to leave the country after several years? Oh, sorry, I left that question. I know the answers, of course, but I left that question to you. Would you be able to answer? Sorry?
The question on the screen, I mean,
yes. What happens if you want to leave the country after several years?
Yeah, right now the clause, there's no restriction from the bank, so you can just sell the house normally if that's the intention, and what is left, you pay off the mortgage, what is left, and the rest is just yours. There will be no taxes on based on that. There will be no fines on that. So you can actually break a contract with a bank if you want to move. If you want to keep the house, however, and rent it out, that's a different option. But if this is one of the questions, it's quite specific. So that's better one-on-one, I would say.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. So now you have it. That's what you need to do if you intend, because I know I'm here for 13 years. I was supposed to be only for 2, but then, yeah, here I am. And maybe you are thinking about you moving out in 5 years or so. It's nice to know, depends on your mortgage, what is the procedure if you need to move out the country. And I know a lot of people have questions about renting the property. Can I rent out my house or a room? So you're not allowed to rent your house if you have a residential mortgage. Most likely the bank will make you sell the house if you try to rent out the house. You are allowed for 2 people, only a room, without allowed for 2 people without a permit, and not allowed in some areas. So you need to go to your city hall and see all the different laws to be able to rent in your specific areas. For example, in Amsterdam, you're not allowed to, there is a number of people that can live in the house regarding the square meters. So they'll be able to register. So you need to check that. And also, of course, the way your mortgage is done. But that's something the mortgage advisor can talk to you further. And there are mortgages that are mortgage to let. Then you're not able to borrow 100% of mortgage like on the normal mortgage to live yourself. But that's a whole different conversation that the mortgage advisor can have with you. It's more specific. What's the typical amount I should overbid? So we talked about that a little bit. It's all about the value. It really depends on the area. I will give you some examples. If you are looking for a house, I don't know where you guys live, of course, but if you're looking, a lot of people want to live, I'll talk about a little bit more Eindhoven area now. They want to live in Eindhoven, for example, because if they have kids, they have 2 schools there. One is bilingual, for example. It's much cheaper than international school. They have new houses. There are energy label A, and they have houses from 10 years ago, 15 years ago max. So of course, the search for a house in their area, the competition there is much higher because it became a very international neighborhood. So you have to realize that you are going to go against a lot of international people with money, and then the overbid might be quite high, but I don't remember seeing like 20% of the asking price or anything like that. So, but of course, there are areas that are different. Eindhoven, also Veldhoven became unbelievable expensive in the past 2 years. I can't believe it. So it's, of course, you have ISML nearby, you have the high-tech campus, so it's easy to live nearby. You can do everything by bicycle, so you will pay more for that. But there are other little cities around. Heldrop, it's growing insanely, but it's still affordable. I would say Helmond, and I don't know if you know this, but Helmond has 3 train stations, which I don't know why really, but there are 3 train stations in that small village, in that small city. So if you don't have to go to the office, it might be a good city for you to live as well. You have Best, you have Noonan. So you have to go around. You can literally open Google Map and go around if you want to pay a little bit less. But in Eindhoven, the competition, it is quite high. But it's still, you need to think about the value market. And there are some selling agents that will put the price very low. There are selling agents that will put almost as the value market. And there are the selling agents that will put at the value market. But most of them do put the value more lower than the market value, so they can have more people in the viewings and have more offers and have more overbidding. So when you hear of overbidding, think about it now that you already know about the market value. So it was really 20%, or the market value was quite high, and then people just pay a little bit more than that, or maybe they only pay the market value. You never know, because if the difference was really high. I had a house last week that the market value was about 40K difference. So you see, it's quite a big difference. And then if you look at the overbid, would be quite high if you look at funda value. So that's what you have to think about it. Oh, here again, another example. So that's a huge difference from the market value, from the funda, from the asking price value. So again, it really depends on the areas. You do have areas that the market value is higher as well, of course, and neighborhoods that the house it's worth it a bit more. And also it depends on how much the houses around were sold in the past. So I would say maximum 1 year. That's how the appraiser look at it. So he always need a comparison to be able to value the house as high as possible. So if there's no house in the neighborhood that is worth it that much, or at least close by, he won't be able to value the house in a huge amount. So that's why you need to be careful when you put an offer so high, but you want to finance everything, because most likely it won't be possible. How does the NHG limit work? Does it apply on the purchase price or the OWOZ value? That's for you, Ewoud. I could talk about it, but since you're here, go for it, please.
The limit actually, it is actually based a little bit on the average selling price of the last years. So each year is gonna, actually right now it's increasing. The way you get NHG, basically it was once started out for people helping to get a house, because NHG is founded by the government. And the idea behind it is that if you have to sell the house with a loss, that the bank will get this money back. And what helps for you is that you basically get a lower interest rate, and that really helps. The WOZ value actually is just a financial thing that you pay taxes on, so it doesn't really influence the value. So if there are certain areas that few houses are being sold, then sometimes you see this value as being really low, but it's not really connected to the market value. Well, if you have new areas, I just heard Diovana about Helmond. You see Brandenvoort, it's quite a new area. And you see that WOZ actually is quite high there, because it's close, a lot of houses are sold, so it's more connected to the current limit.
And they have a train station.
They have 3, yes, like you said. And actually, it's really close by, so a lot of people are going there as well, because it's a little bit more affordable as well. Yeah, definitely. And the NHG limit actually also works that the appraisal value is the limit. So if you have an appraisal of 355,000 euros or less, you can get NHG. That's the only real reason that they have. For the rest, the restrictions are limited, so you can just get NHG and the deduction on your interest rates.
And the benefits of the NHG, it would be a protection, right? If you lose your job, if you are not able to work anymore for some kind of disability, or if you had an accident, for example, and are able to work for, or to pay the mortgage, so that you'll be covered by the NHG, right?
It's not really an insurance. It is true that a bank has to try to have you keep the house if something happens. But in the end, if you have to sell the house, they're just going to cover potential loss. It's not that it's a coverage in insurance that it pays your mortgage.
Okay, good to know. What is the 10% deposit that I need to complete? So the 10% deposit is mandatory. It will come in. You probably saw already on the advertisement on Funda, and most of the house they already put it in the advertisement. Is a down payment of the purchase price. So 300. If you buy, the purchase price is 300. You have to pay 10% of the purchase price. The money will be sent to the notary, and the notary will keep the money until the deal is completely done. Is agreed on the purchase agreement. I don't like to call it agreed on the purchase agreement, but it's okay. It's written there and you sign it, but they won't take it off anyway, even if you want to. It's mandatory, really. It's 10% of the purchase price, and most likely will be covered be used to cover the penalties. For example, if you have a financial clause and everything goes well, you have no problem with financial, but you just woke up in a day, you don't like the house anymore, you're not allowed to get out of the deal. The only way you can get out of the deal is if your mortgage gets denied, not just because you don't like the house anymore. If you just don't like the house anymore, most likely you're going to pay the 10% purchase price to the seller. If you don't have a financial clause and your mortgage gets denied, you pay the 10%. So it's basically to cover any penalty regarding to the house. So you don't need to have that money yourself. You can borrow that money from the bank. The mortgage advisor will do it for you. Of course, there is a value that you have to pay for it. It's not that much. And then the bank will give you that money, send to the notary, and the notary will hold on to the money until the deal is completely done. You also can pay yourself, of course, but in case you can't, it's possible to borrow from the bank, just so you know. Q&A, here we go. I believe my colleague Ludo already answered a lot of questions. So if you still have questions, please let us know.
Yes, so we did indeed answer quite some questions, but we still have a few left in the Q&A where I think also some might be handy for the majority of the people to hear. And we have some nice mortgage related questions. As it's not my expertise, I couldn't answer them all, but luckily we have an expert with us today. So I'm going to start ahead and ask a first question to you, Ewoud. If you are a PhD researcher, is it possible to get a mortgage?
Yes, as a PhD researcher, sometimes it's also possible. It depends, however, a little bit how and what. Also depending a little bit on what direction. Medical is quite easy, but nowadays there are possibilities. It will be limited by a few banks though, but yeah, you're more than welcome also to look into that part. Yes.
And just so you know, I already have, I believe, 4 PhD, do I say professors already? No, I don't know, students? PhD?
Researchers. Yeah.
Researchers, yes. From TU, the university, we were able to buy, we bought 2 houses and 2 apartments. So just so you know. They were able to get a mortgage.
The good thing about the big amount of mortgage lenders is that there's always something possible.
Yeah.
So we advise you to indeed then have a chat with Ewoud about it, to dive into your specific situation. I'm going to stay with you, Ewoud. How much is the usual interest rate for a residential property?
The interest rates actually vary a little bit because if you fix it, like also in my scheme, you saw a little bit, if you have NHG, you have interest rates starting from 1% going up to about maybe 2.5%, depending a little bit. There is, however, a big difference if people are buying houses to rent out. That's more a business-like, and then you have different type of interest rates, like 3.5%. Is that people are paying around 1.8%. That's a little bit the average that I see people choosing nowadays.
So still relatively on the lower side.
Yeah.
That is nice. Fantastic. Okay. On to you, Diovana. A question regarding properties. What potential things should we ensure when buying old houses?
Oh, yes, that's something. So in the documents, it really depends what do you like in the old houses, for example. There are people, my house is from 1906. So I like some things that came with the house, the old glasses and the doors. That was basically it. I did change a lot of everything. I was make more modern, but it really depends what you're looking for. Of course, you need to see if for example, most likely the CV will be old as well. The whole heating system will be old, so you have to check that. The roof is very important to check the roof. A lot of old houses don't even have insulation. So I very much advise you to have a technical inspector when you go for a house that's quite old. So you can have literally everything checked. They also check all the facades to see if there is not water coming in. The wooden frames, they most likely will be still the same ones since the beginning, since when they built the house. Mine are still the same ones, and they can know the conditions if they're not, if there's not any water coming in from there. If those are the kind of things you have to look for. The fuse boxes, they should be renovated by at least 40 years ago. So that's something that you have to pay attention quite well, I would say. So for old houses, it's very important that you have an inspection done. And one more thing, Eindhoven doesn't have foundation problems. So those old houses, most likely you're not going to have a foundation problem. But if you look for a house, there is not an Eindhoven area it's more towards Amsterdam, near to Rotterdam, you should also ask for the foundation of the house.
Yeah, for sure, indeed. But luckily in Eindhoven, that is indeed not a huge issue, or not an issue at all, actually. Back to you, Ewoud. Question from an anonymous attendee. Could you dive a little bit deeper into the parental donation? So first of all, you mentioned that it was ending, and second of all, how does it work when parents that are non-Dutch residents want to make this donation, and is there any tax benefit for the child?
Yes, it's a nice possibility nowadays to get 100,000 euros, and actually it doesn't even have to come from your parents. Anybody can give it to you. So actually people can get from different options, maybe up to 100,000 euros, and it ends the 1st of January 2023. But also when they're not residential, so not Dutch, when you look at the fiscal law, the giver always have to pay. So actually when they're not from the Netherlands, then you have to look at the fiscal law in your own country from the people. So therefore there's actually even more possibilities within, and we just have to prove that you didn't borrow the money, but you got it. And if you prove it, then you can definitely use it as having your own savings.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying. Then I'm going to stick with you. We have quite some mortgage questions. Question from production. Is it possible to get, in regards to a mortgage, possibly get a percentage if that is a possibility?
Let's see. Additional cost. I'm not sure if I understand the question now.
Or is it possible at all to get a tax deduction in relation to a mortgage?
That would be if you have a mortgage that is being paid off within the 30 years, then the interest is deductible. All applicable costs to getting the mortgage are deductible as well. But there are no other tricks in that way. Some people also use it a little bit if they have a lot of savings. Actually, you start paying about having savings as well in the Netherlands. And if it's in a house, you don't pay about it. So in that way, there might be some tax benefit in that part as well, but not additional like local municipal taxes and that sort of things. There are no other benefits coming from having a house.
No, that makes sense. Cool, thank you. And then we have the final question. Question from an anonymous attendee as well. In addition to the 1% interest on the loan that you were just talking about, will there be any other additional costs like insurance or anything like that? Maybe it's also a two-part question. The second part I'll ask to Diovana about municipal taxes and cost. But first off you go, Ewoud.
Yes, what I sometimes do is people will also think it's difficult what kind of cost to expect. I sometimes take them along a little bit also what to expect. So I always keep in mind all taxes that are relevant for you, but if needed also like what is common just for gas, water, light and that sort of thing. So the idea is also to give you a little bit inside information about it. But if you just compare it actually for renting comparing to buying a house, then the taxes are part of actually mortgage that we calculate. So the difference there are quite small. You basically run into the same type of cost of living in the Netherlands.
Okay. Yeah, and then for you, Diovana, can you tell us a little bit more about the additional costs, like yearly municipal taxes and things like that?
Yes, you have to pay once a year in Eindhoven. It's end of February, beginning of March that you pay your municipality taxes. Also the house taxes you have to pay, and then you have the water taxes you pay, the sewage taxes. So that comes with the house. Those things you normally don't pay when you rent the house, but of course they include that in the rent and you don't even know. So the water taxes you pay, and then you pay the sewage taxes, you pay your own taxes just to live, and then you pay the house taxes. That the house taxes and sewage taxes are based on the WOZ value of the house. So those are yearly payments that you have to make. And when you have the house documents, then when you request them in a viewing before you go to the house, or if after you've been there, normally they send send it to you. If they don't ask them for the house documents, you can see all the payments that they have done in the last year. And you can even see more or less how much they pay per month for water, gas, electricity. Of course, everyone uses more or less, but then you can have an idea of how much are the yearly taxes that you have to pay. Each house is different. It depends on the neighborhood because it's based on the WOZ value. So it depends how much is the value in the neighborhood you wanted to buy it. But in the documents of the house, you can find all the payments you need to do, and they have to be paid by the end of February, beginning of March.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
I wanted to say thank you, Ewoud. Thank you so much for being here with us. Ludo, thank you so much for helping out tonight again. And to all of you, thank you for being here. And please write your questions if you forgot something. Get in touch if you need any more information. We are here to help you out. And good luck with your search or with your offer if it got accepted already. And yeah, have a very nice evening. Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.